But today we're going to talk about the historical development of legal English and some of the reasons why the poor practices persist. The next part of the class today will talk about the rules of plain English as well. And finally, we'll touch upon some basic rules of the grammar. And I've picked out just a few important rules of the grammar that may assist you in basically avoiding the mistake that students have made in previous years when writing their assignments. But firstly, let me talk about the historical development of English. And one of the first rules about writing in plain English is that we should write in English and avoid Latin. And we all know how many cases we've read where judges are extensively using Latin in order to develop or apply legal principles. Well, once we get to the point, once we get to the stage of appearing before the High Court, it may be a good idea to develop a sound knowledge of the Latin, but for our purposes, for the purposes of everyday legal practice, and also in order to ensure that our clients understand what we're talking about, we should stick to the rules of plain English. But indeed, we all know that there is widespread use of the Latin language in the legal vocabulary. And you will be surprised to hear that medieval lawyers in England needed to have a very good command of the Latin language because court pleadings and also court records were in Latin. Now, partly the reason for this is because of the historical development of the courts from the church, and the language of the church for many centuries was Latin, but also it was partly because it was fancy, so to speak, at the time. And even today, Latin lingers like a patient on life support, as Professor Thiesma says, and there's been an increased frequency in the use of Latin phrases in our everyday legal language. Expressions such as inter alia, ab initio, bona fide, circa, sua sub silentio, and sua sponte, and so on. There's many other phrases in the Latin language. And these words from Latin, they sound a bit unusual because we don't understand them immediately. Now, on the other hand, there are other types of words that have been imported into the legal language and from different languages as well, but they have been completely anglicized. We do understand them. For example, when the Scandinavians raided England in the northeast, they brought with them their laws and their culture. And in fact, they brought into the law the words such as gift and sale and trust. And even the word law itself was brought in by the Scandinavians. Law meaning that which is laid down. But far more substantial was the French influence on the legal vocabulary of today. And historically, the reason for this is the Norman Conquest of England in 1066, when the Duke of Normandy conquered England. Indeed, William the Conqueror also brought with him Acts of Parliament, and soon after, by 1300s, they were all drafted in the French language. And indeed, slowly the French language, legal French language, became the language of the courts, and many judges and lawyers used to talk to each other in law French. Why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning it because the effect of the importation of the French, law French, into English has been quite tremendous. The words such as appeal, attorney, bailiff, claim, complaint, judge, court, all of these terms come from the French. Even other essential terms in legal English, such as agreement, assault, felony, lease, license, misdemeanor, and so on. Apart from the words themselves, in some instances the French syntax, the grammar, the order in which the words appear in the sentence can be felt in English. And this can be seen from examples such as Attorney General. You see, in French, it's the adjective that follows the noun. And in this case, Attorney General, general actually refers to the attorney. And it's an adjective for the attorney. In French, they won't say beautiful tree, they will say tree beautiful. You see, their syntax is different. The adjective follows the noun. Beautiful follows the tree. And so we have in the legal language examples such as Attorney General, Court Martial, Fee Simple Absolute, Letter Testamentary, Letter Patent, Malice aforethought. Malice aforethought being the premeditation in criminal cases. And also Solicitor General, for example.